For the past few weeks, we've been asking you guys to leave us voicemails. Well, now we're going to listen to them. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about.
Let's give this a shout out to our Prestige members. Thank you guys so much. Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Hornack, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, and Dakota Cole. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the content, exclusive videos, exclusive live streams, and hey, some tiers even get some free stuff. So hit that link in the description.
Ryan, really looking forward to this episode. Taking those voicemails from our listeners and seeing what they have to ask us about Kings Island or whatever it might be. I have no idea what's coming. I don't think what's necessarily coming either, other than we've collected these and we're ready to roll.
Yeah, without further ado, let's start out with the first one.
Yeah, this is Jerry from Elkins, West Virginia. Big fan, and I really enjoy your show. It's really wonderful, the information stuff you share out there. Anyways, my big question is it's pretty much one that I'm sure you've probably heard many times before. A guest is always standing in line or trying to get in line for a future ride, and they've come to find out that a ride is broken down. And then the questions start coming. How long is the ride going to be down for? What's going on? And usually the ride attendant will usually tell you that it's down for technical difficulties. They cannot be more specific on what they're telling you. My question is there a purpose? Is there like red tape behind all of this? Why, what is allowed to be told? What is not allowed to be told? Is there a reason for certain things like this? I'm just kind of wondering what goes on as far as policy goes and what other things happen behind the scenes that guests don't really see. And maybe you can kind of give us more of a detail of why things go on the way they do, what is said, and policies and stuff like that. Because it's just kind of frustrating sometimes that, you don't really know what goes on. So anyways, thank you for taking time to listen to this question, and hope to talk to you again.
Great question.
Great question. Yeah.
Unless there's an incident, it's either, it's operational, electrical, mechanical, something happened that shut the ride down. And these are machines, the rides. It's no different than, your car might encounter an issue. You're driving down the expressway and all of a sudden one of the check engine lights or something go on, so it's one of those kind of things. So it's operational, electrical, mechanical. Oftentimes they don't know how long it might take to get the ride back up is something that they're going to need to replace a part. Maybe there's a sensor along the track or something that went out and they've got to replace that, or maybe something on the sensor said something was there and they got to go out and walk the track to find out what might be in that area. Sometimes it's just a matter of a big bird, flew right over it or landed on the track or something. So different things like that often happen. So the amount of time it's going to take, it's going to vary. Not always going to be the same. And then different rides have different things they have to do to start it back up again. So once the ride shuts down, they've got to go back through all the different block tests to get it, back open again. And that time can vary. And the ride associates, they're not going to know, oftentimes what's going on. They might know one of those terms, electrical, mechanical, operational. I know there was many years where that's what the associate out front would tell the guest. It would be what one of those were. They wouldn't go any more detail than that. But it's oftentimes a sensor went out on the ride, or something else mechanical happened, electrical. That can happen. So that's the reason.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, there's the psychology behind it. Well, there's two things. First of all, do you want a 17-year-old kid trying to explain a sensor fault Like, I don't think that that's very responsible for the park to do, which is
No.
why they don't do it. But also, you don't want them saying, oh, they just need to change a sensor. It should be like 5 minutes. Like, you don't want that because, first of all, yeah, a ride op generally doesn't know that information. And second of all, there's no guarantee. They could change the sensor and have the same fault. It's kind of like how, like, when you have your car worked on, they give you an estimate, but not like a solid price because there's could be more under the hood. The same thing is with the time capital with
Yeah, you
that.
don't know, yeah, with the wait time and that, how long it's gonna take sometimes, but, uh and also, in the world we live in today with social media, all
Mhm.
it takes is for someone to misinterpret that wrong, and they start posting about it, and then it starts to spread a little bit. Next thing you know, the news media is calling about something, so I think in that situation, the less you can say about why, the better it's gonna be for the park.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks for leaving us a voicemail. Let's move on to the next one.
Hey guys, so my name is Grace. I am from the Cleveland area of Ohio. I just got finished with you guys' video today about the 4 water parks in the area. As someone that lives in the Cleveland area, I'd have to say that River Racers, while it's unique to at least the Cedar Fair chain, as from what I recall, I think the only water coaster in the chain is over at Castaway Bay. So in that perspective, the chain actually branching out to get water coasters is great. It's cool. But as someone that lives in Northeast Ohio, it's not the reason why I come down to the park. I come down about monthly for Mystic and Diamondback. Just it's fine. And as an addition, I'm hoping that another one would come by sooner. That would be bigger. I'm hoping that this is like a proof of concept idea. But if I wanted to go for a water coaster, I have Waldemere an hour and a half away. I know Don went to it sometime in 24, I think. I think I saw him there as well. But yeah, as for, I know you guys had another conversation about Son of Beast. I'm 25. I never got to ride it, but some people might not like it. But the best I could say about it is it looked bland, the layout. Like, I don't mean to hate on it, but it's a drop, 2 double helixes, and a loop. And then when they got rid of the loop, it just became 2 double helixes, 1 or 2 hills, and then that was it. I don't really know why people, especially of my age or younger, or people that haven't gone on it before, are so interested in it. It just seems like I don't know, something that someone would make in Roller Coaster Tycoon or something, a rather boring layout. But I do have one question for you guys, if you're interested. So with Bat being as old as it is, and rumors going around about its relatively soon end of service life and removal, if that was to be replaced with another family coaster, which of the 3 ideas would you rather it be? A B&M family invert like Phoenix Rising or Big Bad Wolf, Wolf's Revenge? A Vekoma Vekoma family invert like Dragonflyer out at Dollywood? Or something akin to Big Bear Mountain, also at Dollywood? Thank you guys so much for your show. Love listening to you guys in the morning. Have a good day. Bye.
All right, let's unpack it one piece at a time. So, starting off with his comments about river racers, I think that they're completely in line with, what we're thinking too. Where, it's fine. People will like it. Is
Good
it going
enough.
to move the needle? Yeah, good enough. Is it going to
Yeah,
move the
good enough.
needle outside of a 30-mile radius? Probably not.
No,
Um,
no. And he mentioned Waldemere, and I did go there last summer. They have a fantastic water park. So, if you're somebody that, likes to travel a little bit, Waldemere located, within basically a little over 3 hours from the majority of the Kings Island season pass base. So definitely check that park out. Charming, place. I loved it.
yeah. So the next thing he brought up, Son of Beast. And I think so. The reason why there's so much lore behind it is because it was big, it was infamous, and people your age at the age of 25 probably didn't get to ride it. But you're right, it was boring. Like it was rough, but even if it wasn't rough, it would have been a bad ride. It's think like
Yeah,
Mean Streak. Mean Streak was like rough, but it was just bad. Like just it wandered around. Son of
I
Beast was
think
like that.
when that opened, the thought process that I had and a number of other uh, coaster fans had about it was if I wanted a loop, I'd go ride Vortex.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that, while that was a big selling point about the only wooden roller coaster with a loop like that, um, it wasn't really, it didn't really do anything for the ride. It didn't do anything for me. And yeah, it was tall. It had a nice drop and it went fast, but it was kind of a turbulent ride. Wasn't something that you got off the ride and wanted to get right back in line and ride it again. I think some people get enamored by the statistics of a ride,
Hmm.
the record breaking stuff. When parks release that, they want to ride it because it's a record breaker and that is part of the allure, to it. Uh, I'm just looking for rides that are great experiences, and that wasn't one of them.
Yeah. So his third point was, what would, if they got rid of the bat, would we rather have a B&M invert, a Vekoma invert, or a Vekoma launched family like Big Bear Mountain? I think that the answer is so incredibly evident.
Yeah, you and I think, are going to be on the same page with this. So just go ahead and say it, Ryan.
B&M family invert. No, I'm just kidding. Big Bear Mountain, because that would be perfect. That'd be perfect for the Vortex plot if they put it there. It's a great transitional ride. It's long, it's fun, it's smooth. The new Vekoma stuff is reliable. The other two are too similar to the Bat, so there will be a lot of comparison, and neither of them are going to be as uh, like as intense as the Bat. So it's always going to be like a not as good version of the Bat, especially if they were dumb enough to name it the Bat. You know,
Yeah,
but
I think the thing I like about Big Bear Mountain is, the range of guests that can enjoy that ride. And I think that's
oh
something that,
yeah,
you know, you never go wrong when you're putting a ride like that in, that more of your guests can ride it. It's not fun, for the people that have to sit out because they can't ride. They weren't tall enough, or maybe it's too intense for them. When you see sometimes, people riding Orion, but then there's two other people that would have rode a Big Bear Mountain, so all four of them would have rode together, but two of them are sitting out because they didn't want to do Orion. They're, just sitting there waiting 45 minutes for them to get back off Orion. To me, that's not a good, that's not quality time together.
tangent question, Don. Do you think that if they had built like put 30 million into like a Big Bear Mountain kind of ride, it would have been a better investment than Orion?
Yes.
Okay. All
Because you
right.
already had something. I mean, you were just going for, to say we had a Giga coaster. Outside of that, you had something that was, very comparable in terms of the thrills that it delivers with Diamondback. So you could have gone a little, bit different with the variety and had something that more guests, could enjoy and enjoy together.
Yeah. I mean, they said they drive down for Diamondback and Mystic. They didn't mention Orion. That's one thing that
Yeah.
stuck out to me.
Yeah. When you take off your enthusiast hat, I think you look at things a little bit different sometimes, and what's, best overall for everybody coming to the park. Not just yourself. What do you want? What's best for, the masses. And I think that's where a Big Bear Mountain would have been a better choice.
Yeah. By the way, audio listeners, we're going to be doing this again. So the phone number is 513-399-7538 if you want to leave us a voicemail. We'll do this every couple weeks, couple months, somewhere around there, once we collect enough of them that are good for the show. 513-399-7538. Let's go to 3.
Hi, this is Kent from Middletown, Ohio. Love your guys' show. Appreciate what you do, Ryan and Don, and all the great insight that Don adds to the show, and all the historical things. Love that. Have a question. Maybe you guys could cover what season passes have you guys bought, which level, and maybe what add-ons did you do? I'm assuming you got the All Parks passport. And also, What do you plan on visiting? Any new Six Flags parks that have been added to the chain now? And also, how will those passes work with entry and parking and admission and meal plans? I've heard that you only get parking and admission, that the meal plans and the drink plans don't transfer. So maybe you could cover that. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I think let's address the last question first, because that's incredibly important. So with I hate that this is true, but it is. With the legacy Cedar Fair parks, the ones that your pass got you into last year, if you've got the all park passport, then you're good. Admission, parking, food, fun picks, drink, all that stuff, that translates. If you go to a Six Flags legacy park, though, you get admission and parking, but your meal plan, your augmentations, your add-ons, they don't work. So hopefully that's different in the future, because that's such a.
I think it will be.
I think so too, but imagine explaining that to, like, if they got Six Flags in front of the name, it won't work. But the rest of the Six Flags parks, it does work.
I think it just takes time to integrate, all those different systems and things together. So I think it will happen in time. A little disappointing for this year, but that'll come.
Yeah. So I've got the works. I mean, well, not really the works. There are a lot of people with more add-ons than me, but Gold Pass, All Park Passport, Drink Plan Plus, and Meal Plan. And then I guess to make it interesting, our other parks too. So I've got a Disney annual pass and a Universal annual pass as well.
Yeah, I've got before I started working there, it was just whatever pass they had at the time. They didn't really have different levels until near the end in the 2000s, when there was, the Gold Pass, which got you parking and all that. But last year I got the Gold Pass, All Park Passport, All Season Dining, and I got the drink plan. I did not do the plus. I should have done the plus. I regretted that as we got into the middle of the season, and I saw everybody with the ices and that. So I wish I had done that. The one thing that I was on the fence about last year was the, adding on the fun picks. I think that's a tremendous value. With that, I had a pass at a Holiday World and had the photo pass on that, and that was a tremendous value. I really enjoyed that, and being able to get photos of being on rides like the Voyage and other attractions there, Good Gravy. I think that was a great value, and I always look forward to getting that photo when I got off the ride. So I have a question for our audience, though, our listeners, is with fun picks, is there enough of those, enough options in the park to make that worth that investment? And do they staff those booths enough times that it's worth it? Because we rode the beast a number of times last year, and the curtain was down at the fun picks booth. You couldn't get your beast picture. A couple of times over at Mystic Timbers, it was down. So how reliable is it? If I can be convinced that it's reliable and I'll get good value out of it, then I would probably look to add that to my pass this time around.
Yeah, so for me, it's like, well, first of all, if the beast, assuming that everything works, which it does most of the time, if the booth is closed, there's a kiosk you can go to and scan it and find your picture and so on. What kind of turned me off to it was the picture quality is so bad. Like, they're so dark, or they often like catch half of you. I mean,
so that's something I need to know before I would do it, Ryan. And I'm glad that you're telling me that now. I thought the quality of the photos that I got from Holiday World were great. It'd be like somebody just standing, catching me going down the first drop of a coaster, or coming through the shooting out of the station on Good Gravy. I thought the quality was really good. So that's important. What's the quality? And I'd like to hear. Thanks for your feedback there, Ryan. But I'd like other people, leave in the comments, what you found the quality of the fun picks to be. before I would invest and add that to my pass.
Yeah,
Something
I
I'd
haven't
like to
had
do.
them.
I'd like to do it.
I had them the first year, and I got rid of them after the first year. So the quality could be way different. The other thing that I kind of noticed, and this is different because you've got a granddaughter that will probably be visiting the park now, so you may want a lot more photos, like with roaming photographers, which there are not enough of, I might add. Is I noticed that like I'd look at my Fun Pics account and it would be dozens and dozens of the same photo. It's like, oh, he rode Diamondback again, So that's just me though. There are a lot of people that enjoy it. If you got kids or grandkids, it's a really good value. But I'd also love to hear. So if you have Fun Pics, are you impressed with the photo quality? Like, has anything changed in the last couple of years? But thanks, Ken, for that that voicemail. Let's move on to number 4.
Hello, I'm Bryson Felicelli, and I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I was wondering when Kings Island will get a new major roller coaster and what you guys think it will be. Thanks. Bye.
I think that depends on what your definition of major is.
Yeah.
So I think that we would see another roller coaster before 2030. Does it fit that major description? I don't know.
What do you think it would be? The next major coaster, what do you think it's going to be?
I think the next major thing would be something that would go in the vortex spot. That could be the 2026 thing, but they said family thrill, so that kind of, okay, it might not, fit what some are looking for that. But I would think that something that's going to go there, something that is unique. It'll be unique to Kings Island. I don't think it'll be an off-the-shelf type model that goes in that spot.
Just for fun, like if you were a betting man and you had to put $1 on a model that we know of now, that would say be the next major coaster, go in the vortex plot, what are you betting on?
I'll go dive coaster route.
Yeah, I think dive coaster, or if Raptera does what they think it's going to do, I think that a wing coaster is quite possible as well. Launched wing.
I don't know how much. There's the space is there to do it like a ride that's 3,800, maybe 4,000 feet long. If it, you wind around enough in that spot. But when you're talking about a launch coaster, you really need a lot of room to take off.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that space is there where the vortex spot is.
I think it might be. Like, hear me out. So first of all, you can tear down all the trees that protect the beast because we don't care about trees anymore. But you can have the launch. So imagine the launch coming directly at the midway, and it goes under the midway and then up, like where the basketball game is. So it goes like under a tunnel and then there, and then it does the Emmelman over the walking path.
So you're talking like where the 3-point challenge is, that it would come over that?
Yeah. So that would be where it starts to go upward. So it launches. So it's got the runoff. Remember, this is Kings Island. It doesn't have to go 60 miles an hour. It can be like the first 30-mile-an-hour wing coaster for all we care. But I think that it's doable. I think that would create the visuals because people can get the photos of the train launching from the midway or whatever, or you can get the photo. Remember the famous photo that they always took of people standing in front of the vortex like corkscrew at the very end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
but so I think when you're talking about that spot though, and the longer it has taken to fill that spot, it has to be a home run. You have to do it right. You can't take shortcuts on it. Like you said, making it 30 something miles an hour. You can't. It has to be something that's going to be really special. And it's going to have to be that next big thing at Kings Island.
I agree. I'm not confident that that's going to be the case. Now, with that being said, I hope I'm wrong, but I think that I think with Kings Island, it's like they're kind of sputtered a little bit with the growth, maybe, and the company kind of just sees it that way. So it's going to take other people being in there, being like, "Oh, we can attract more people out of these zip codes for them to build anything big." But with that being said, I don't know what their plan is with King's Dominion as far as selling it or not. But they had to have gotten Raptera at a reasonable price because they don't really invest in that park either. And so if that, like I said, if that moves the needle there,
Hmm.
then I think it's quite possible that we'll get something similar. Of course, Kings Island would probably go ahead and go with the lift hill, because like I've never ridden a wing coaster that's like that great that has a lift hill. Like the launch ones are always the really good ones. So they'd go with the
Yeah,
lift
to me,
hill.
it's got to be a launch. If you're gonna do a wing coaster, make it a launch.
If it's long, it's funny because like Thunderbird at Holiday World is like a top 10 steal for me. Like it's just such a great ride, and it's relentless, and the launch is just such a great sensation. And then you got things like Gatekeeper and all that, and they're like fine, but they got to be launched. You're right. All right. Next.
Greg from Oxford, Ohio. Just was willing to know what your guys' favorite park and favorite ride is at that park. Thanks. Bye.
Cool. I mean, okay. Let's sharpen this a little bit. Let's take Kings Island out of the equation. What's your favorite non-Kings Island park and your favorite ride at that park?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question, Ryan. I'm going to go Holiday World with the Voyage.
Okay.
Because of the Voyage, if we're talking about rides. Then there's Dollywood with the Dollywood Express, not a roller coaster, but a favorite ride. So for me, let's put those two out there.
I like that. For me, honestly, and I'm kind of showing my age, but I want to go with Epcot and Spaceship Earth is my favorite ride there. But if we talk about like if we're going to take out the theme parks and go like a little bit more amusement parky, then it's got to be like probably Holiday World with Thunderbird or Dollywood with Fire Chaser Express. No, Blazing Fury. Sorry,
Blazing Fury. I mean, that's another one. I mean, yeah. So I think one of the things, like I said, for me, I mean, the Voyage is just in a whole, in a league by itself in terms of wooden roller coasters. Love the park, the charm, the hospitality, and the same things, when you look at Dollywood, the charm, the hospitality, and there's, the pinnacle of train rides is the Dollywood Express.
Yeah. Very cool question. Number 7.
Hi, Don. Hi, Ryan. It's Judd from Dayton, Ohio. Hope you gents are both doing well. I'm a longtime listener of your podcast, and I appreciate all the coverage that you provide on my home park, Kings Island. I've been going to the park since I was a youngster. I can remember one of my earliest trips to the park back in the late 70s. I think it was in 79. I can remember climbing down the steps or up the steps to the platform of the Screaming Demon with my older brother and my parents to take in the world's first aero-launched loop coaster. It was awesome. I also vaguely remember the Wild Animal Safari section of the park, which is now Action Zone. I have a lot of great memories of Kings Island over the years, but my question is about the Action Zone. You have both discussed that this section will probably be revamped soon. I know that you guys have discussed several rides being removed and maybe discussions about Timberwolf being demolished. So my question is, imagine that you guys are in charge of redesigning the Action Zone. Number one, what rides would go? Number two, what rides would be added, like coasters and flat rides? And then what would you name and theme this new section? Thank you guys very, very much. I hope you will feature this and keep up all the good work. Thank you.
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
Ryan, what ride would go?
Congo Falls would go. If we had to sacrifice in Vertigo for something better, I would be able to stomach that. Under no condition would I want to get rid of, Banshee or the Bat. Same with Delirium. I think Delirium could use a retheme if they needed to do it, but I think that's a great, beautiful visual ride. So I wouldn't want to get rid of that. If I had to choose a theme, we've talked about how we think it's going to be rethemed to like DC Universe or something like that in the future. If I got to choose, I would make it kind of like a horror theme, like play off the Banshee thing. And I would have a bunch of trees and stuff, because I really think that the area needs to not be the concrete slab that it is. But I would put a bunch of trees in there, and going back to the Big Bear Mountain style thing, I would have some sort of lore ride where it's like you're being chased by the headless horseman, or hell, even a bear, I don't care. And I would have that kind of ride going through like the woods and stuff.
I think for me, I'm not a big fan of the addition by subtraction, but I think Congo Falls, if there has to be something that gets sacrificed, I think that would be it. I think taking down the Extreme Sky Flyer, I think that opens up a lot of possibilities there for some different type rides. One, major type ride like a Big Bear Mountain, or, 3 maybe flat ride type things there. I do like the idea that you mentioned. You look at rides like the Bat and Banshee, kind of making it more of that kind of approach in terms of how it gets themed. I know when Banshee was getting ready to open, when I was there, we did kick around some different ideas for making it something like that. Couldn't come across the right name, so it just stayed with Action Zone. But I think Action Zone, it needs to be upgraded. I mean, it's a concrete jungle out there. I think you can definitely, really make that area pop there with, just refurbishing it. I would not be opposed though to the DC, being themed to that. I haven't gone to some of the different Six Flags parks with that. Some of them it's very well done. That would necessitate name changes for some of the rides there, like Banshee. I could live with that, if it was done right.
If it was done right, if it's not just a name change and a repaint. But I like the Banshee theme, so I'd prefer.
Yeah, I think I would like to see 2 or 3 more flat rides, type things added to that area of the park. I mean, there's room to do it in Action Zone. I think you need more of that in the park. Cargo Loco, Soul Spin, those were nice additions, but you need more of that for guests. Not everybody's going to want to ride roller coasters. You need a lot more.
Right,
and some of the most memorable times of a lot of guests, you talk about those memories that they had at Kings Island. It was 70s, 80s when they were riding rides, like the Tumblebug, Keelboat Canal, those Witch's Cauldron, Wheel of Fortune, those kind of rides that were just, everybody just had so much fun together on those. So I think you need more things like that.
Yeah. All right, next one.
Hey, what's going on, Don and Ryan? This is Jay in Piqua, Ohio, a.k.a. Jay from the Cricket Club, along with you guys. And my question is about the Prestige Pass. So I do have a Prestige Pass for both me and my wife, and the main reason is because she finds it absolutely impossible to find a parking spot wherever she goes that's good enough for her. And the Prestige Pass obviously eliminates all that rigmarole of trying to drive through the parking lot for an hour trying to find the closest spot. So when it comes to me anyway, I would pay $100 extra for one of these passes if it means I get that parking spot. However, but my question is, what are some of your guys' thoughts on what Kings Island can do to make the Prestige Pass feel like, the buyer is getting a little bit more bang for their buck? Because the whole, lounge thing doesn't really appeal to me unless it was Winterfest. Having those heaters close by was, I guess, okay, but even then they didn't do a whole lot. I don't really feel like, other than, the obvious parking pass that I love, I don't feel like there's a whole lot of added value to it. What can they do, they being Kings Island, what can Kings Island do to make those passes feel a little bit more, valuable to the average consumer? Hey, y'all keep up the good work.
That's a great question. I think that there definitely needs to be more.
The Cricket Club.
The Cricket Club. There needs to be more added to Prestige to separate it really from the Gold Pass. Especially for someone that's going to go to or primarily be visiting Kings Island. You get different. You notice a difference when you're at other parks with Prestige than you do at Kings Island. I think for me, Ryan, I think one of the things is when you have like a new ride opening, that Prestige, not all pass holders, but Prestige gets to be the first to experience it. I pitched that idea, to try to add more value for Prestige, and this is at a time when there was a lot of the bait and switch kind of stuff going on, So I wanted to try to come up with ideas that could add more value to Prestige. And I said, how about they get to be the first riders on Soul Spin and Cargo Loco. And the response I got back was, play the clip.
Oh, I didn't know there's a clip for this, but I do have a perfect
No.
clip.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm
Was it
talking about.
this?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the response I got back about my idea to do more for Prestige.
Which is, that's different
was-
from the normal response you get when you pitched an idea. You would get
Weird.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought there were some people that thought, you know, yeah, we need to do more, you know, for them. Some thought it was good enough to just have a VIP area, to call it a day. I said there need to be more advantages like that. I think maybe have some days where, you know, maybe it's just on Saturdays and Sundays, you know, instead of having everybody, you know, that's a pass holder coming, which is going to be about 80%, 90% in the morning that are there are pass holders. You know, everybody gets in early and everybody goes to the same rides. 30 minutes of ride time, not a lot of value there. Is maybe for Prestige just on those days, it's 1 hour of early ride time on like the Beast and Mystic Timbers and Diamondback, you know, just for Prestige, those 3 rides, you know, would open at 9 for them instead of 10 o'clock. So little things like that is what I would do, you know, making sure that they were, again, the first to, you know, experience, you know, new rides when they open, get an automatic invite maybe to, you know, when you're having the, you know, announcements for new attractions, you know, that, you know, you get that priority seating or standing area, you know, for those announcements, just little things like that. Add those little touches and just add more value to it.
For me, a lot of it comes down to the VIP lounge. Like, I think the one at Kings Island's a little bit of an insult. If they honestly, if they tomorrow, if they announce like, hey, check out our new VIP lounge, and they had like a 2-floor one, or like with Kings Dominion, and not just that, but like I know that Jeffrey down at Six Flags Fiesta Texas has like cheese spreads and stuff at their VIP lounge for their Diamond Pass holders. If I was going to get that kind of treatment, I'd be the first to buy it, and I would talk about it on the show and so on.
Yeah.
So vast improvements to the VIP lounge. Like you said, the VIP lounge is clearly something that they had to do, not something that they wanted to do. And their work shows.
Yeah. What about things like, you know, before the season starts, you get like a town home, you know, night, you know, with the general manager, and he's talking about everything that's new, and you can, you know, question and answer type sessions and that, you know, something like that. I've seen that done at different places, you know, not
Yeah.
necessarily with Prestige Pass people, but I've seen it done with other, you know, season ticket holders and that, you know, with sports teams and that get those nights where it's, you know, the town hall meeting, and they get to answer, you know, questions with the, you know, with the management team of the ball club or something. So I think something like that, you know, that would just be for Prestige, that, you know, the Kings Island's opening up as we do this episode this Friday. So maybe, you know, on the Wednesday night, everybody gets to come out, and, you know, 2 or 3 days before the park opens, and, you know, they get to hear, you know, here's what's new this year. They get a sneak preview of stuff. They put a nice little video in that together. People from entertainment come out and talk about the shows that they're having. The executive chef comes out and talks about, you know, the new food items, but just something, again, it's just for Prestige Pass holders.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. To me, the crossing point would be, you know, if they did like the indoor air conditioned VIP lounge, a la King's Dominions. The other thing that would kind of be attractive would be if they had like a roped off area for Prestige Pass holders for the fireworks. That would be kind of nice. You know, those two alone would probably push me over the edge to reconsider. The Q&A thing would be fantastic. I'm sure that our invites would be lost in the mail if we are Prestige Pass holders, though, somehow. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that is, you know, and it's right now it's on principle alone. I like that you get like the one ride or whatever, but I did notice that like we used to use that and like be like, all right, we only get one ride with this thing. What are we going to do? Beast, no Diamondback, no, you know. And then after about July, it was like we'd have it and we'd just be walking around, run into a friend like, here, you can have this, you know. So that's a really good benefit, and that's probably the most attractive thing to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
and I would look too, you know, to see what you're getting at these other parks. You know, if you got Prestige and you're going to go to Cedar Point, Kings Dominion, Carowinds, you know, what are some of the other things that are there, and can there be some more consistencies across the board in terms of what you're getting?
Well, yeah, I mean that's been the problem all along. It's like if you remember when they launched the All Park Passport, they said it's exactly like a Platinum Pass with a different name and a different way of doing it. And then 4 months later, oh, only Cedar Point people can do the Top Thrill 2 thing, and they're doing it with the Flash Vertical Velocity. They did a early ride thing for them. I saw that on a Coaster Studios video, but you have to have that as your home park.
Right.
So that, and if anything, that kind of comes down to, well, if I can really make my home park whatever I want, why wouldn't I just buy the pass out of the park that's investing? So,
True.
because I mean, I don't know if King's Dominion did a King's Dominion only Raptira thing. I think they didn't, but that would be a good case to buy it out of King's Dominion. And then next year, they're doing a multi-launch record-breaking coaster out of Six Flags New Jersey. Buy it out of Six Flags New Jersey. Buy from the park that's investing, because you have a good chance of being able to ride early. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, like for me though, there just hasn't been enough of a difference to go to the Prestige versus the Gold with the All Park, Passport. It just hasn't been there.
Well, and also, like, I really get the vibe that, again, there's some individuals within the park that aren't huge fans of their own guests because they're visitors. And they particularly hate the Prestige people because they spend a lot more money on their pass. So I kind of felt that in my heart the year that I had the Prestige.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what kind of turned me away. I probably could have worked with it under other conditions. Again, they took away the bottled drinks. They took away, the legitimate snacks and this and that. Had they reached out and said, like, look, we didn't intend to send that email out. This is what the benefits are going to be. You can have a refund within the next 2 weeks if you get a guest services. We wouldn't even be talking about this now, but they were slimy about it because the guests aren't that important, especially the ones that pay $400 for their pass. And, so that's when we had so we had to look at the website every week to see what other benefit was taken off or modified, So a lot of principle behind that, but I would say, when we're talking about the core stuff, I would say an indoor VIP lounge with areas to sit, maybe even like it's nice that they have the chips and stuff, but in Six Flags Fiesta Texas, they got cheese spreads and stuff like that. I've seen pictures of it. And then maybe like an area for the firework viewing would be nice too. Cool. That's actually the last voicemail, but I
enjoyed this, Ryan. I did. I think it was, it opens up a whole lot of possibilities for us for future episodes.
Yeah, and if you want to be part of the show in the future, phone number is 513-399-7538. So leave us your name, the city you're from, and about a minute-long message, and we'll feature some of the best ones on the show. And we're gonna do this again. This I was looking forward to doing this, and it's been a lot of fun.
It has been.
Let's move on to some Tower Topics tidbits for your information.
All right. We have Kings Island. It begins its 54th season this week, Friday, with the season pass preview day. Opening day is on Saturday. And that's the official start of the season. And, so make sure that, if you haven't already renewed your season pass, you do it by now so you can attend that preview day. It's always an exciting day, whether there's new rides, or just some of your old favorites. It's always a day that so many guests, look forward to. This year, starting with the opening weekend, you've got Shake, Rattle, and Roll highlighting the rides that are going to be celebrating anniversaries this year. That ride is going to turn 50. Whitewater Canyon, it will mark its 40th anniversary. That typically now doesn't open until Memorial Day weekend. Backlot Stunt Coaster celebrates 20 years. Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, it reaches its 15th year. And both Franklin's Flyers and Snoopy Space Buggies, they hit the 10-year mark. Meanwhile, Orion turns 5. And that is our Tower tidbits for this episode.
Yeah. So if you want to feel old, read off those numbers, because I remember some of them being new like it was yesterday. All right, let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. All right, buy or sell. This summer, Don will change his social media name to Chris P. Bacon, and Ryan will change his to Harry Kane. In Kings Island, none the wiser will, unlike they do now, will like and reply to their comments on the park's channels with emoji-filled responses like they do for everyone else. You know what we have to say about that?
I like turtles.
All right, buy or sell. By the 4th of July, Mike Coons is retired and Kings Island goes general manager-less like Cedar Point has for the past 4 months for the rest of 2025 to save a few bucks. I honestly, it's like, the thing though is like, you can, if
I'm still thinking about changing my name to Chris P. Bacon. So
yeah,
they'll like my post.
it's
Anyway, go ahead.
worth doing. Okay, so if Mr. Kuntz decides to retire, I'd like to think that they would have a succession plan. But if he's told to retire, they better have a succession plan, you know. So Cedar Point still doesn't have a GM, do they?
As of this recording, there's been no announcement of one. So, you know, here we are a couple of days away from Kings Island starting the season, and up the road, they open May 3rd with Cedar Point. You know, no news about a general manager. I could see them, you know, all these synergies and things in place, doing what they did with the marketing teams and having brand teams, and then having, you know, somebody that's a general manager of 2 or 3 parks. You know, I could see something like that, you know, being discussed or implemented. You know, would not surprise too many people if that's the route that they decided to go, you know, with what they've done with some other things that, you know, it's debatable how well that's worked out for them. But I'm going to sell this. I don't think so. I think that, you know, if Mike were to retire or be asked to retire, I think there would be someone, there would be a succession plan, somebody in place ready to step in and take over as the general manager at Kings Island.
I think that one of the 2 assistant general managers would be the interim general manager and would be pretty sure that they're going to be promoted to full-time general manager and then not, and they'll just like destroy them. That's just the way the world works. Yeah, I don't know. So like I could see them doing the thing you're talking, or at least discussing it. But there's got to be somebody in charge. And you know, even if they don't call him a general manager, like that's what they are. So you can't centralize everything. Heck, it's not working great for marketing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, marketing, PR, social media. I don't think, you know, taking people out of the park level has been a great move, you know, for them. And there's been, I mean, some things, okay, it's worked out a little bit, you know, more on the marketing side than it has on the PR social side. But you got to have people, you know, boots on the ground, and that would include having a general manager.
Yeah. Don, tell them about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts. They are in a wicked green color. They come in a variety of sizes, whatever you would need. It would even come in an infant size if that's what you want. They're $22. That includes your shipping. And all you need to do is send us an email, which would be donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. Or you can go to our X, which is Tower_Topics. If you haven't already followed us, follow us there. Send us a direct message. We'll send you a QR code. And once the transaction has gone through, it's just a matter of days before you get your shirt.
Yeah. Order now and get them in time for coaster stock and wear them on the group photo day. We'd love to see that. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig. Leave us a voicemail, 513-399-7538. This is Tower Topics.